people don't like to be seen as cheaters, so they don't like to talk about steroids because people can perceive them as cheaters. There's another aspect in which cheating plus drug use in many people's heads equals degeneracy, like you're just a bad person. You know, like a criminal who can't even get along with other criminals, like is bad to their girlfriends, bad to their pets, like that. And a lot of people will kind of see you in that light if you say that, you know, you do steroids or have done steroids or whatever.
Before you listen to the podcast, please subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments below, who do you want us to host next on our podcast? Hey, Mike, nice to have you here. I was waiting for that for a long time. I hope you're doing really good today. How's New York?
I'm doing excellent. How's what?
How's New York?
No idea. I don't live in New York.
You don't?
No.
You just, what about the Lehman College, Bronx, and so on?
Yep, that's digital only, and I no longer do that either. So.
Oh, damn! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
where do you live, actually?
I live in the Detroit metropolitan area, so in Michigan, in the United States.
That's so. I was always, under the impression that it's New York and so on, because you always present yourself like, Lehman College professor, blah blah blah, and in the Bronx and so on. So I was just assuming.
Just online though, and I actually am not a professor for Lehman anymore.
You're not?
No.
Of course not. I mean, by the amount of work that you have on your own right now, probably that would be quite hard to do, I imagine.
Yeah, sure. There's definitely a bit of that there. Yeah.
Good to know. I was thinking by myself today. I was driving from my physio. I tore my biceps a bit over.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Doing what?
You don't know. It's so freaking silly. I was coming home after a seminar, and I have this very big Samsung screen, like an interactive whiteboard, and blah blah blah. And I didn't want to wait for my wife to help me, to get it out of the car. So I was just holding it, like spreading my arms full out, full extension of the elbow. And when I tried to put it down, something just ripped off. Yeah. So my biceps, my left biceps was just gone. I'm lucky though that I trained many doctors from our hospital over here, and I got my surgery in pretty much a week. There, so that's good. I'm 5 weeks after the surgery right now, so things are going well. I can almost fully extend it. So rehab process is going on, but I was thinking to myself that the current state of the industry, the fitness industry, it's a bit mad, isn't it?
Yes. Many industries have that in common, but the fitness industry is no exception. Yeah.
I think that it got worse during COVID because of all the online stuff that was happening and so on. So much, I'll be just frank, shit was coming up. You didn't see it so much before, but the presence online just became bigger and bigger and bigger for everybody. So everything got out there. That was just my impression. Luckily, we have you and the other good guys that we are huge fans of. Just one question: how the hell did you gain that follower base? It's enormous. It's really huge. How did that happen?
I don't know, man. I have no idea why people choose to click on videos of mine. I mean, I could try to assess it objectively. I can tell you I don't have any special personal insights as to why it occurred. I have heard a few folks offer their hypotheses that I could share. I don't know if I believe them to whatever extent.
Oh, I'm curious about that. What would that be? I mean, I know why I click.
Well, why do you click? We can start with that.
I like the crazy shit, to be fair. Usually I pick up my daughter from her dancing class, and when we drive back home, we'll listen to you, with all the silly jokes and so on.
Good God.
She's becoming a fan of you as well. She's 17, by the way.
Oh my God, not good, not good.
I really like that,
Well, thank you so much, man. The jokes definitely contribute to it, I think. I also apparently have like a soothing voice. That's what I've heard. And I didn't know that was the case, but I sure found out. And maybe a part of it is that I'm at least trying to explain concepts that are maybe quite complicated seeming in a way that many folks can understand. I have to explain them to myself in my own head in simple ways. I can't really understand complex things. I don't know really who can understand complex things. I suspect most people who claim to be able to understand complexity actually don't. But I think everything needs to be boiled down to relatively simple things for humans to understand. And so I've walked that path so many times in my own head and so many times to students as a professor that I'm like pretty decent at walking that path on podcasts and in our own YouTube stuff. So I think maybe people find that helpful. Another thing that does have kind of a unique look. I don't look like most other people. I have a weird shaped head, and I think that gets people to look at thumbnails more, and I think there's some value to that. Like they're like, "What the hell is this? Like, what the hell is that guy?" I also choose to speak about a very wide range of opinions, oftentimes not really minding if I'm misperceived in some way as less intelligent or not politically correct. So I will, casually admit that I have and do use anabolic steroids, for example. That's quite rare, apparently. And I can also speak about their downsides and their upsides at the same time, which is also quite rare. I think most people either want to talk about good things or bad things, not both at the same time.
Mm.
So there's that. Also, I mean, I guess I've been quite well educated in the field. I'm definitely an actual expert, which helps because when people look at whoever's saying the fitness stuff they like to hear, they end up realizing, oh, this is like a person who just like started saying this kind of stuff and was self-taught, which is great. But I have all the degrees and all that other stuff that goes with it, so that helps. And then I have an awesome video team, and so we're able to produce like 5 YouTube videos of decent content per week. And we just
True.
keep going. And that's a big deal because content production that's of high value is like the absolute number one path to having large followings. It's what people follow you for is more videos. And then maybe another one is the fact that we started doing my reviews of kind of Hollywood celebrities and other famous social media people and kind of how they do their workouts and offering a little bit of, humor sometimes and sometimes offering a bit of advice on things they're doing great and maybe things that you can try at home in a way that might also lead to better results for you. So that Friday Exercise Scientist Reviews show is, very, very, does very well for us on the channel, and so I think that's probably a big part of it as well. And when we started doing that show is kind of when YouTube for us really started blowing up. And then I went on a bunch of other podcasts. I guess that's another thing is I typically go on plenty of other podcasts, and it helps because everyone sees your face everywhere and they run into your bullshit at some point. And the way I like to see the world is there's a certain number of people out there right now that haven't heard of me, and some fraction of them will not like what I have to say or not like me personally or whatever, and they're just no big deal. I don't have to be liked by everyone, but some fraction of the people that have still yet to find out about me are probably would be quite interested in what I have to say. And so if I can get on a bunch of podcasts and collaborate with tons of people and get in front of a lot of faces, I'm just going to sort through those 2 groups faster than I would and eventually end up with lots of people that are subscribed and think that whatever I have to say might be marginally worth their next hour or half hour of listening time. So that's what I got.
I mean, thanks for that.
Sure.
You're here. About the collaborations and other podcasts, you've been on quite a few of the really big ones, like Chris Williamson is one of my favorites, definitely. The Modern Wisdom. Have you been? I'm not sure about it with Stephen Bartlett on the Diary of a CEO. Have you been there as well?
Mm-hmm.
So those would be the 2 that I remember just on the top of my head. How was it? Was it different to what you produce usually, or was it similar to that? I mean, I know producing high quality content, fuck man, that's hard. It's hard work. People don't notice that.
I would say going on podcasts is one of the easier things that I do. I'd actually say it's very easy because you sit down in a very comfortable chair and then a nice person asks you a bunch of questions which generally are in your field of expertise. And you can always say that you don't quite know something well enough to answer it, or you can say, well, I know this much, but not anymore, or you can expound at length and really dig deep into the answer to give them a good one. And so to me, being on other folks' podcasts is actually super easy because I just get to kind of show up and answer questions. Producing my own content is also not super challenging. What is a little bit more intensive is the production work required beforehand in order to like get a topic together that many people might find interesting, and then design an outline of talking points around that topic. It's not super hard, but it just takes some work. Whereas that work is pretty much completely missing from podcasts in which you're a guest. Like I'm on your podcast now. I did absolutely zero preparation for it because I already think I know what I know, and it's just a conversation. And so I don't even know what questions you're going to ask, which makes it real easy because I just kind of show up. So the podcasting thing, the hardest part about collabs and podcasts is the scheduling and the travel. So like, finding time through your year where, you're not doing other stuff, finding time they can meet. Often these bigger podcasts are in person only. So you'd have to fly to Austin, Texas for Chris Williamson. I flew to Los Angeles for Stephen Bartlett. And so that's a big deal, and definitely interferes with training and diet and quality of life at home and relaxation. But it is such a huge opportunity that, I'll still be traveling for podcasts as long as people make the mistake of having me on.
Definitely not a mistake, man. I'll tell you
I don't know.
that. It's good.
Tell my victims that. No, I'm just kidding. They're mostly children, so they wouldn't appreciate it anyway.
Yeah, true. Well, I'm still not giving up on inviting you over to Europe once again. I missed you. I believe you were in with my friends in Austria, in Vienna, 2018.
Yeah, it was quite some time ago. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I missed you there, but I've sent one of my trainers up to Vienna back then. I couldn't make it with
That
my
sucks, man.
conflicts going on and so on. But yeah, it was close. It was close enough.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm definitely. So the invitation stands for the coming years, whenever you want to. And as far as Brad told me, you're quite similar to me regarding food and everything. I'm a full-time foodie, so eating a lot and so on. Cooking.
Who said to you that I'm a foodie?
Brad Schoenfeld said to me once when we were talking about how much someone can eat, and he brought you up that you eat like a shitload of food.
Yeah, well, so I can eat a decent amount of food in one sitting. But among my own friends, it's not exceptional. I think it's exceptional to Brad because Brad is not like an insane, gigantic person who has all kinds of wrong priorities like I do. And so Menno Henselmans actually eats substantially more than I do in one sitting,
Really?
By a long shot. And Jared Feather can eat sort of any amount of food he wants in one sitting until I don't even know where it goes because his waist is tiny. I have no idea how that works mechanically. But so I like to eat lots of food, but the end result, like, when you like to play soccer, but people are like, "Oh, are you good?" You're like, "No, I just like to play it." They're like, "Oh, that sucks." That's me with eating food. So if you have the promise of giving me a lot of food, I'm really entertained that I'm not a foodie because my palate is probably like the least refined palate of anyone you've ever met. I can hardly differentiate between the nuance of what is supposed to be good food and not good food. And so I'll eat food so to me, one of my favorite restaurants when comparing all restaurants is Panda Express. Do you know about Panda Express?
Yeah, I know it.
It's just amazing. And I only go there for one menu item, and that's the grilled teriyaki chicken with steamed rice on the side. I think it's wonderful, and I can't ask much more out of food than I get out of Panda Express. And so if you want to take me to a restaurant where it's $200 a plate, there's a very high probability that the entire value proposition of that will be lost on me completely.
No, I was thinking more to taking you to Trieste in Italy and go like a buffet sushi place or something like that.
That works real well. I'll take that
because
any day.
I love that. I love it. I'm both. I like really good food, like the high cuisine stuff and so on.
Okay.
But I like to go out and really, just smash everything as much as I can. I'm not doing that as much as I did when I was younger. I could do that. But right now, as you get older, I hit 40 last year, so things change.
You look great, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
My wife is older than me and she looks actually younger. So I'm having a good role model at home for that.
Same. My wife's 42, but she's Filipina, so they stop aging at like 27 or something.
Yeah. Seems the same with my wife, but that's good. That's a good thing.
Very good. Yeah, you could have said something very awkward and pointless, like, "Yeah, my wife's older and she looks fucking terrible," and we would have sat here for a few seconds like,
Definitely not. I like to be married.
Where are you from? Where are you located?
I'm from Slovenia. Very, very small country. Yeah, just below Austria. We're in the middle between Austria, Italy, Hungary, and Croatia.
Yeah. So that's why you're not quite as curt as you could be. I find that Eastern Europeans tend to be quite unintentionally rude. Like I've never met anyone who I would consider a very, very polite person that was Romanian ever.
Yeah.
They'll just tell you shit that they think that you're like, holy shit, you said that in public. But I noticed you're quite polite, and that means you're not from those countries, but you're more Central European, a more refined human person.
I try to be, man. I'm
Yeah.
just holding myself back today. It's the first time that I met you, so
Oh,
I
come
can't
on.
just go
You
full
well, you
on.
guys have a high standard in that region. I mean, who else great is from there? Austria, Hitler. So he was great. He was very nice.
Yeah, true. I don't know uh, if you're familiar with Luke Lehman. Luke Lehman, he was teaching for the Polyquin group back in the day a lot. And now he's in Australia at Muscle Nerds.
I'm not familiar with him, no, but that doesn't
No,
mean anything. I'm quite. I don't have very many friends, so I stay mostly at home.
no. The reason why I'm thinking about it is because Luke is one of my very good friends, and we get crazy together. So from if I would judge by your YouTube videos, you would fit perfectly into that group of people and that we hang around with.
Oh, you mean sense of humor wise and offensive
Yeah,
jokes wise? Yeah.
exactly.
Well, so
Yeah.
I can actually answer this objectively. My degree of political incorrectness is maximum, and my allowability for jokes at the expense of everyone is also maximum, in fact, encouraged. And so you won't hear 99% of the jokes that come into my head on YouTube because it would get us canceled instantly. Like if
Yeah.
you heard how Scott the video guy and I talk behind the scenes, it would be like insane shit. No, hilarious shit. All meant best, of course, all humor and jokes. We're all people that care about all the peoples of the world. But yeah, just vile humor, the worst. But Hitler would blush at this type of shit we say. Yeah.
That's why I opened up a channel on Rumble actually just because of that. Because
Okay.
I want to start doing podcasts and everything so that we can talk like really fucking openly. I mean,
Sure.
this one will be marked as explicit language anyway. I
Yeah.
believe so. So I don't care anymore.
I would like if you have an editing team or just I would remove the F words mostly and bleep them. I think that would help a
Yeah.
lot because
Yeah, I will.
we've gotten messed up for F words. Scott every few months he tells me like, hey, we got another video demonetized. I was like, okay, what was it? He was like, you think you said the F word 17 times in 1 minute. I was like, oh yeah, that's something I would do. You know, when you don't remember what you did, but someone tells you what
Yeah.
you did, and you're like, yeah, that sounds like something I would do. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So
Don't care anymore. That's good. I'm in that perspective, I'm more like Ricky Gervais on the Golden Globes, something like that.
yeah, fuck them.
Yeah, exactly. One question that I wanted to ask you is, what's your background? How did you got into training? When did you start, and what pulled you in? I mean, going all the way to a PhD, that's a long way to go.
Yeah. I started training in weights after my first wrestling season because I wanted to get stronger for wrestling because it was apparent to me during wrestling that being stronger is a good thing. And then in high school, I started doing more lifting and actually less wrestling for a few reasons. But one of the positive elements of that was that I started to like lifting more and more. And then in college, I kept lifting. I kept getting bigger and gaining muscle. And at first, I told myself in high school, like, I just kind of wanted like Bruce Lee physique, small, lean. I got that roughly that physique in high school, which is not exceptional. A lot of high school students can do that. And I started sort of trending in that direction, I guess. I didn't get that physique. But then I would like over the summers, I would not be on attention deficit disorder medication, and that would cause my appetite to increase. And also, like during the school year, the ADD medication kept my appetite so low that I would barely gain any weight during the school year, but I would gain like a lot of weight during the summers. And because I was training all the time, it was like largely muscle. And so every time I got bigger, I was like, well, I don't hate this at all. And then when I was about 160 pounds at probably about 5'5" at the time, I realized that for the first time ever, my physique started to develop in some of the muscles a look of roundness.
Mm.
Like my pecs started to kind of like what they look like now. I mean, they were much smaller, but like kind of that
Yeah.
rounded look, pecs, shoulders, arms. And I was like, whoa, what the hell is this? This I like. This I want more of. And I powerlifted competitively in college. And because powerlifting is very objective, like you just either lift the weight or you don't, getting stronger is thus objective. And I was always I was a nerd much longer than I was a person who lifted weights. And I was like, well, how would I nerd my way through this problem of trying to get stronger? And I was like, okay, science and logic and reason seems to be the way. And at the end of my undergraduate, which was in exercise science, I thought, so I need to learn more about how to get more jacked and more strong. And just for my own selfish purposes, and because there's something incredibly fascinating about knowing very much about how a system works and being able to exploit it in a variety of ways. So I went to a master's program. After that, I was a little bit burnt out of school, just enough school for a while, and then I wanted to work. And so my friend, Mr. Nick Shaw, and I, actually co-founder of RP, him and I went to go be personal trainers in New York City. And it was a great experience, but after about half a year, I realized like I really just needed to know a whole lot more, and I was kind of revitalized to go back to school. I applied and was accepted and went to Dr. Mike Stone's PhD in sport physiology in East Tennessee. So I actually did my master's in North Carolina, which was like an hour away from the East Tennessee school. Went to New York, and a year later come right back and did 3 years at East Tennessee. Those are some of the best years of my life. I learned the most that I had ever learned ever. And it really truly became a sports scientist, really became quote unquote Dr. Mike, because they awarded me a PhD at the end. It was an amazing experience. And basically there we learned how to take good athletes and make them better. And that's kind of what my focus has been since. During that time, as I was lifting, I was paying less attention to strength and more attention to getting jacked. I started reading bodybuilding magazines because my eye was drawn by the aesthetics. I mean, just if you look at enough outlines of dudes' cocks, at some point you're like, I'm not gay, but these cocks look so beautiful. They're, I just like collecting them. I'm not going to touch them. I just want them on my shelf. Not literally, but, like sculptures of cocks. And so then I was like, oh, these males have bodies as well. They have abs and they have shoulders and backs. And I started reading bodybuilding magazines, and I really, really discovered that I had a love for the aesthetics, for muscularity and leanness and proportion. And so then I began a journey of trying to become as jacked as I could be. That journey ended like a year ago, and the new journey is to take my roughly similar level of jackedness and try to make it as aesthetic as it can be. And I'll be on that journey, I don't know, maybe for a while, because it really means a lot to me. And so now when I lift and all that stuff, it's a huge part of my life. And mostly to me, it's an expression of art. It's like walking inside of a sculpture, a very hairy, not so aesthetic sculpture, but it's getting better over time. And that's all I can ask.
You've been competing before, weren't you? Have you been on a bodybuilding stage?
Yeah, a few times. Mm.
Or was it? I was only one time. It was just something I wanted to take off. How was your experience?
So far, I really mostly just haven't liked competing. I need to reassess my mindset on that and have. Um, I don't like competing because you're not able to show off the best that your body looks. Um, it's almost an impossibility because you just like stand up in a row full of guys in a very cold room for 45 minutes beforehand, and how you're supposed to look your best compared to how you are pumped in a warm gym with mirrors is just a non-starter. So because of that, I get kind of a sour attitude about it. And I've done quite well at times in competition. In 2001, I took second at Masters USA's in the super heavyweights, which was really cool. And then recently I've taken like some fifth and sixth places at Masters Nationals and USA's. And so I had to take a break from bodybuilding recently. I was really kind of getting into the thick of things with competition. I got quite excited about it, but then YouTube blew up, and I was invited on like 50 podcasts. And like, man, show prep when you're doing that is kind of really tough. And
Yeah.
it just at some point I was kind of like, oh, so what's the most important thing to me right now? Is it competing in bodybuilding, or is it taking this massive opportunity to become like, I guess in some sense, globally relevant in the fitness space? I was like, okay, it's clear the answer is globally relevant. And so I put bodybuilding competition aside for a little while, but probably in about a year or a year and a half, I look forward to returning to compete again. I have unfinished business. I still have yet to put a physique on stage that I think is as good of a physique as I can reasonably attain, plus or minus a few percentage points. And when I do that a few times and see how the competition plays out, I'll be perfectly happy to step away from the stage. But I do want to kind of achieve that physique. And for me, it's if I achieve the physique that I want in the gym, all I have to do is put on a pair of posing trunks, make sure my posing is good, get the tan color and everything else right, chill at the show. And I think I could probably do pretty well in competition. I'm trying to beat everybody, but I'm like quite muscular. And if I can get quite lean, which I've been already, if I can get a little bit leaner, then start to look pretty cool, lose striations and all that stuff. So we're going to kind of see how it goes.
How did you and Jared meet actually? When was that?
Oh, whatever. He was a male prostitute. And at first it was loveless, Alex. He wouldn't even look me in the eyes. Can you believe it? These gorgeous eyes. But then I caught him staring once. We started kissing, and we never stopped. And that's the end. No, no. It's actually quite worse. He was a college student of mine. I was a professor of his. And he sat in the front and he asked tons of questions, and he stayed after class to ask even more questions. He was brilliant. He was critical. He did not take my word as authority. He just tried to take it as a logical hint as to what the likely truth was. And eventually we started to become training partners and friends. And then he started to work for RP as a coach. And the rest is history. And we've worked on multiple projects together, including training apps and all this other stuff. And he's since become an IFBB pro. And so Jared was a natural pro. And then after getting his natural pro card and I think winning a natural show or two, it was in his plan from the get-go to, end up enhanced. Then he did, and then so he turned pro and enhanced after a few tries, and now he, has taken top 5, top 6 in a few physique pro shows. Jared has a look that if you see in real life, makes you want to quit bodybuilding because you're like, fuck, why am I even trying? Like his waist is about the size of his leg, and his delt is also the size of his legs. So you're like, fuck you. But it's an awesome look, and he's actually, I consider Jared Feather currently the best bodybuilding coach as far as capability that I know, or in a very, very short list.
Yeah, I mean, I like his content as well, and looking at what was it? When was it? Was it the Olympia? November? Was he at the Olympia now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
like
that's the last
in what capacity?
No, as a competitor right now. Where was it?
It was some other pro show.
Because when I've seen that and the improvements, and wow,
yeah,
freaking awesome. That is really, amazing to look at. And once I believe that when you competed at least once and you know what it takes to get to that stage, it was good work, like solid work. Wow.
Yeah, definitely. It's really difficult to coach people in pursuing the limits of their fitness if you haven't really pushed the limits yourself. To me, I'm absolutely obsessed with the idea of limits. When you really push your body and your mind very, very far, you start to learn about yourself. You learn about the dynamics of what's going on. And that can be incredibly instructive for you as a mentor to other folks who want to get in shape. Because if someone tells you, let's say you're a personal trainer and an online diet coach, and you eat pretty well, you train consistently, you have a 6-pack, you look nice, you're 25 or whatever, and or 45, doesn't matter. And you have a client that's a housewife or a client that's a business executive or someone with 3 children at home, and they're really struggling with their consistency and they're struggling with their fatigue, and you just can't relate because to you it comes pretty easy. But, what are you going to do? Adopt 3 kids to see how that feels? No, because after the children are no longer useful, you can't simply drop them off at the local ravine. Well, you could, but you have to sleep at night, nightmares about children. Who wants that?
What it means useful.
Yeah.
I mean, what's that?
So let's not rule it out, but maybe instead what you can do is try to push your own fitness, relatively speaking, so hard for yourself that you're edging close to that boundary of quitting and sometimes even beyond it. And then when you can do that, you're going to learn so much about everything affecting itself that you're going to be really helpful to your clients. It's kind of like if you think you're a good pilot, but you've never flown your plane as fast as it can fly to where it's shaking, you don't even know if you can control your plane at maximum speed. You don't know if you're a good pilot. So very good pilots push the aircraft as far as it can go so that they can see if they can control it and develop ideas about how to control it. So just like if you want to be a good coach to other people, you should probably push your own body very far so that when they tell you, dude, I'm really tired, you can say, I know exactly what you mean. You feel like this, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, don't you? And they go, yep, yep, yep. How did you know that? I'm like, well, it's a thing called cumulative fatigue. We already have a name for it, and you're not the first person to feel it. You're going to be okay. We're going to do these things, but I hear you. I know where you're coming from, and I felt it too. And now they know that not only are you like empathizing with them because you do know where they're coming from, they also have this understanding of safety that, well, this guy's been there before. He struggled before. He got over it. He's in good shape, and he's telling me what to do. If I just listen to him, I'll be good. It's kind of like, what kind of jungle guide do you want? And let's say Costa Rica, you go for vacation. Do you want a jungle guide that you like get a little bit off the path and you're like, what's over there? He's like, I don't know. I actually am not really sure where we are right now. You're going to be like, oh my fucking God, we're going to die out here. Or you're like, hey, where are we? He's like, oh yeah, like I know where we are. And you're like, is this like a rough jungle? He's like, dude, I served in Vietnam for a decade. Nothing's rough compared to that. And you're like, God, fuck, I'll follow this guy anywhere. If he seems quite confident that this is a totally fine, that kind of reassurance is not something you can give your clients unless you've really pushed it yourself before. And I know many trainers and coaches who are great people, but have never had to really earn their physique through kind of strife and struggle. And their ability to coach clients is substantially less than you would expect, because when clients struggle, a lot of these coaches' first temptation is to roll their eyes and be like, oh, just do the plan. Well, sometimes that is the answer. But oftentimes, if you understand the kind of stress and fatigue and constraint they're under, and how difficult it can be to lose fat and gain muscle as a person who is really pushing the limits of whatever environment they're in, you can have a bit of appreciation. And maybe instead of rolling your eyes, sometimes you can be like, oh, listen, I know what you're going through. Let's take actionable steps to get through this. Actionable steps, by the way, that you only developed because you went through your own hardships.
True. I mean, I've done a lot of crazy stuff in my life. I was doing a triathlon, back in the 2009, 2010. Won a couple of them, very short ones. I was never into the long distances.
Fuck
And
that.
I was just doing something. I like that. So what the fuck? I don't like running too much. So no, I'm not doing the long ones.
Yeah.
Who wants that? But then, crazy person that I am, I decided, yeah, you know what? A Guinness Book World Record sounds quite nice. So I decided to step on a spinning bike for 11 days with pretty much no sleep. And I was just cycling through. And
Holy
that
shit,
was, when we talk about disturbances in your hormones and so on, be my guest, man, because after that, my testosterone levels were like female. And
For how long?
for very long. It was 2012, and I did the world record. And
Congratulations, by the way. That's insane.
oh, thanks, man. And because of the hormones and the stress levels and so on, because I was prepping for it for 1 year, sleeping less than 2 hours per night for 1 year straight. So that was insane. And I got alopecia and so on and so on. My beard started to fall off. After my beard, my hair started to fall off. So that's when I started to shave my head for a couple of years. And I remember that my alopecia went away in 2016. So 4 years altogether. But for the first 6 months, I was really shattered after that. So
you really fucked up. You overtrained. That's overtraining. That's not overreaching.
Like massively, massively. And I was getting, let's say, into the sleep for maximum 20 minutes per day during the
Why?
Because there were some rules and so on. So if I accumulated my rest periods, I could have more minutes available in case I would really need it. But I didn't really need it. So I just wanted to accumulate as much as possible in case my bike breaks or whatever.
Sure.
So I didn't do that. I just didn't sleep. And autogenic training for me was a huge game changer. So I need like 30 to 40 seconds to fall down into deep sleep, just, with auto suggestions and so on and so on. And that was insane. I'm still using that techniques. So
that's cool.
Crazy stuff, but went through it. I wouldn't go through it again. It's just 11 days. It's too much. It's too long. Yeah,
as your body's falling apart shortly thereafter, illustrated. But you learned a ton, right? And then people can ask you, how does it feel to really push yourself? I mean, you have to know the answer to that after being out on a bike for 11 days, I suspect.
Oh, yeah. Ask my ass. Yeah, that was that was not fun to do. But after that, I decided, I've been doing martial arts a lot in my beginnings, and then triathlon, then cycling a lot, and fitness. Why not bodybuilding? So I needed a new challenge. So 2016, no, it was 2015. I stepped on bodybuilding stage in a classic division. It was quite nice, good, a lot of struggle, a lot of work. And since my hormones were down, especially my testosterone levels were so much down, you can imagine that after struggling for 6 months, I just found a better way of doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So that experience is there as well. Why do you think people struggle to talk about it so openly? I mean, you do, obviously. It's still illegal. I understand that. But, once it's done anyway.
I think there are a few reasons. I think the number one reason is that it's illegal. It's a crime. People generally don't openly talk about crimes they're currently committing, by the way, and it's
Yeah.
legally probably pretty stupid to do. So when people refuse to talk about it, I never really judge them because as soon as people make it legal, then we can ask the people talk about it. Until and
Yeah.
unless, it's okay if we shut up. The other one is I think that steroids by many people are considered cheating because they can be used to cheat at sports, which ban them. And so I think there's an automatic assumption most people have that if you're using steroids, you're cheating. People don't like to be seen as cheaters, so they don't like to talk about steroids because people can perceive them as cheaters. There's another aspect in which cheating plus drug use in many people's heads equals degeneracy, like you're just a bad person. Like
Mm.
a criminal who can't even get along with other criminals, like is bad to their girlfriends, bad to their pets, like that. And a lot of people will kind of see you in that light if you say that, you do steroids or have done steroids or whatever. And they'll sort of file you way into the degenerate part of their classification system for other humans. And most people don't appreciate that. They don't like that sort of thing. And so to stay in people's good graces, a lot of times the formalities will have a thing. If you represent a supplement company or you're
Yeah.
going on national news media to be televised and interviewed, it's just poor business in many cases to admit that you're on steroids because, like for example, let's say folks in the worldwide entertainment wrestling or whatever,
Mm.
WWE, whatever that stands for, my apologies, started admitting that they were on steroids. I mean, my God, how many children watch that? And whatever, children don't care, they don't even know what that is, but adults that watch their children watch it, well, some fraction of them will get very upset. And there'll be requests for auditing for the WWE. There'll be requests for legal action. There'll be maybe some people will turn away and no longer let their children watch it. And so when John Cena's on a radio show and he gets asked, "Hey, do you use steroids?" Of course he's going to say no. As well he should. And if people have a problem with that, then what they really should have a problem with is the people that are continuing to make steroids illegal. Now, if steroids are all of a sudden legal and there's no actual criminal penalty for going to jail for them, I would definitely judge people who don't disclose their steroid use differently.
Mm.
And because then it's just social factors. And then at some point, well, you either get judged for the social factors appropriately by admitting that you're on steroids or you're lying. And lying's not great. Though it's maybe one of the widest lies in the world, it's still not a great thing. So I think most people, they think that lying is a better alternative than having legal action. And many people think lying is a better alternative than having people no longer do business with them, no longer invite them on podcasts, no longer allow their children to interact with them, no longer have supplement companies sponsor them, and so on down the line. Me personally, I only am concerned about the legal part. And I'm just, is essentially risking taking that one to the chin. But for me, the lying is something like we all do every now and again. I still do it occasionally, and it's bad. I've done it much more when I was younger. It was bad. It only ever really leads outside of white lies of like the fat girl at the office asks you how she looks and you say great. That's quite harmless and probably a nice thing to say. But there's many ways in which lying is just much worse than telling the truth. And to me, it never really sits right. I hate doing it. So I just, anytime I can not lie, I usually choose not to lie. And so when people are like, do you take steroids? Whatever I had planned to say, whatever comes out is really like, yeah, I sure shit do. And I do. I mean, I really do. So why would I say I don't? If I end up in jail or whatever, like, fine, I'll go to jail. I'll get out. I'll continue to do my shit.
Is it really that bad, in your opinion? I my
Well, it
opinion.
can be any time. I mean, I'm globally recognized. It would be nominally easy for someone in the Drug Enforcement Agency to like literally see me declaring that I use steroids on social media and arrange for an investigation and send me to jail. Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward.
I mean, is it bad for as taking them all together, or are there, as with everything, nuances to that?
You mean bad, like in what sense?
I mean, the bad reputation of steroids like that, or enhancement drugs at all. In my opinion, it depends. I mean, for me, it was a lifestyle. I was 28 years old, not being able to get a hard on. That was
Well,
quite a
that
problem
11
for me.
hour,
You know what
11
I mean?
days of bicycling was your hard on for the next 5 years, all summated together.
Yeah, true.
The girl's like, "Do you have a boner?" You're like, "No, but I can explain why." And after 8 hours of you explaining the bicycling thing, she's like, "I honestly don't give a shit anymore, man." You're like, "Hold on, let me get some Viagra." Yeah, man, of course, it's just trade-offs, right? As children, things are labeled to us as good or bad, and I'll tell you why. Because children do not have the world model, the understanding of many important elements of how the world actually works in their brains in order to parse decisions in a nuanced way. And so children have a much more simplified world model. And a part of that simplicity or simplification is to tell them some things are good and some things are bad. Like you say this about all kinds of things. You say
Mm,
crossing the street without looking both ways is
bad.
bad. Um, and that's for obvious reasons. And not following strangers to places is bad, and drugs are bad. Now, when you grow up, it turns out that not looking both ways when you cross the street is almost always, or looking both ways is almost always a good thing. That when the street is completely closed for a carnival and there's 50 people in there, if you still look back and forth before crossing, you're like unwell and out of touch with reality. If you don't follow strangers to various places, you'll never fuck anyone random in college, which is, I think, the entire purpose of college. So you just learned nothing. Um, and so on down the line. And with drugs, it is another one of like, well, some drugs have positives. Sorry, I take that back. All drugs have positives. All drugs have negatives. And good and bad are determined by the trade-offs of those positives and negatives, but the trick is that they're different for different people at different times for different purposes. If, someone threw you in a jail cell and said you have to fight a jacked, angry dude in a month, here's weights, here's supplements, here's food, and here's all the steroids you can take. If you don't win, he's going to kill you. If you win, you go free, and you still don't use the steroids, you're just an idiot. You just haven't thought it through. So already something cannot be categorically bad. If you're a male with low testosterone or hypogonadism, as was the case in your case, and you get replacement therapy, it's life-changing and miraculous and has almost all positives and almost no negatives. And then, there's marijuana, which is, again, mostly positives, very few negatives, but you can definitely use too much of and abuse and all that other stuff. So there's definitely negatives. Children can't parse those things, so we say good and bad. And many adults carry in the heuristics of childhood into adulthood and say things like steroids are bad. And then you can casually remind those adults that, well, it's a little more complicated than that. And you're totally right. Steroids have a lot of bad things that they do. But in some specific cases and circumstances, they can have some net positives that outweigh the negatives. That being said, they're still insanely, profoundly dangerous and risky and deleterious to various things about your health and psychology and intelligence. Drugs that should not be taken casually. And so while steroids are a trade-off, they're not the same thing as like creatine and protein powder at the GNC. Not the same thing at all. It's a very, very big deal.
True. I just always thought, or when someone asked me, I always said, look, it depends, right? It depends on how much, when, why,
Sure.
what you want to do with it. And I'm just not as negative about it as the majority is. This is something that I don't know if you know what we do. Actually, what we do is we certify personal trainers. And the reason why we do it, I was a gym owner myself, so I couldn't find proper trainers. So I wanted to do something that is giving them more than just not even the basic knowledge, but the skill set, the experience in the gym and so on and so on. So when they go through the process of learning, they have really something they can work with. So this is what we're trying to do over here with
Mm-hmm.
my team.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going away from this question. So we talk openly about it as well. Because
Sure.
we have that's the reason why I invited you to do a private lecture for us and for the, for some of the trainers that we teach, because I think it's important to listen to people like you with a different point of view, talking openly about that and so on. I don't know if you're aware, there's a guy that I follow around. I believe he's from the UK. I'm not sure if it's England or Ireland. Dr. Dean St. Mart, which is quite into, the pharmaceuticals and so on.
Okay.
So we will have him on February 4th
Oh,
for a
that's very
podcast
cool.
and something, like a webinar, what we are doing today as well. How do you look at education stuff right now, or the certification business? Because the way I look at it, most of them are just taking your money without providing really good value for it.
I mean, that's probably true for most certifications. My favorite certification currently is the Menno Henselman's certification course. I think it's superior because it's insanely intensive. It's like a year and a half long, and it's like you just learn like what most people will never learn in an entire undergraduate in exercise science.
Mm.
And so there are courses like that, but then there's also $100 certificates you can get over the course of a 3-hour online test, and that may not show what you know. Certification is interesting because it's a way to communicate to people who hire you at gyms or clients that would hire you from a gym that you know things. And so for that purpose, they're quite valuable. They do range the gamut. And so at some point, you'd have to have a certification that's way better than others, or some that are quite good. So certifications, someone having a certification does not guarantee that they know things, but it sure does raise the probability. And so as a probabilistic tool, I think certifications can be a valuable thing. But if you think that just getting a cert means you know everything, or just because your trainer's certified, then they're correct about all the recommendations, I mean, gee, that's just not true at all.
Mm. But that's why I change everything that we do. So ours is, again, altogether what we provide is so much more than you would get with a $100 stuff or something like that.
Yeah.
And it has to be longer, it has to be deeper, and it has to be, in my opinion at least, like stepwise, because you're not able to
Yes.
comprehend everything, all the information that you're getting, if you're just getting it right now when you just coming into the industry. It's too much. So you have to,
Yeah.
deliver it chunk wise.
Yeah, and also certifications mostly don't teach you like a very deep wisdom about how things actually work in real life. So
Yeah.
no certification is any substitute for experience. But having lots of experience, knowing lots of deep wisdom, and also being certified can both give you actual value of knowing things and communicate to other people that you have value and actually know things.
I mean, luckily we have social media, guys like you, Brad Contreras, and the other guys, all of them that are providing really good content. So you can get at least a grasp on it. Although, what can you pack in a 30-second video, for God's sake? And people just take it and go on with it, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, like, so if I chose to get into debates in my Instagram comments, for example, which unfortunately is just not possible with my time, um, I could pick out a large fraction of people whose questions and comments about my various views reflect a likelihood that they learned most of their exercise and nutrition stuff through reels and shorts.
Yeah.
And so they know like memes, basically. Sure, the good book title, Nutrition and Training, all in memes. And thus their degree of nuanced understanding sometimes borders on zero. And but to your point, I do share your concern with this, that they think they know things because they sure shit seen a lot of reels, and it can make you seem like you know stuff. I would say that one better than that is long form content. So you can watch lots of 10 to 30-minute YouTube videos and learn much more. Better still, you can watch multi-hour long videos and podcasts about nuances. On our YouTube channel at RP Strength, we have a 32 or 33 video series. Each video is about 45 minutes long, called Advanced Hypertrophy Concepts and Tools. If you get through that whole video series twice, you're going to know a lot of shit about how to train. But fuck, man, that's a whole lot of video to listen to. You're in your car, you're at the store, you're at your home, you're listening to the videos. It's a lot of stuff. It's intensive. that there's no non-intensive way to learn deep things about the world and have a maximal impact on the
Mm.
world. Um, so there's that, but then there's also a couple of other avenues people can learn from. One is books. Like so, we are not the only people at RP that publish books about this. There are many other amazing books about this. The 3D folks, Eric Helms and his team,
Yeah.
they have excellent books. Then we have a bunch of books like Scientific Principles of Hypertrophy Training, Scientific Principles of Strength Training, The Renaissance Diet 2.0, Understanding Healthy Eating. Now, those books are even more intense than the multi-part lectures, but if you work through those books, you can probably pass most personal training certifications just
Easily.
like having sight unseen after that, because you really, really know things. And at a deeper level, if you want to know things and be able to be a great practitioner, reading those books is awesome. But if you want to be an innovator, you actually have to understand the deep fundamentals of physiology underlying that. And there's no way to do that unless you just read physiology books and work through the problem sets. And most people do that in college, but you can do that yourself for $80. You could buy an old physiology text. For $40. You can buy an old physiology text and just work through it cover to cover. Almost no one does that. I would say that I don't mean this as a cocky statement, just a statement of fact. There's a reason why I seem to know a lot more than many other people in the fitness space. It's because I read many and then wrote several textbooks.
Mm.
Like, if you've just been listening through reels, there's no way you're going to catch up to me, because how the fuck would you? You just haven't seen that kind of data density. But there's a secret weapon in understanding fitness that's getting better all the time, and that's the modern AI that we see, modern chatbots. You talk to Gemini, you talk to Claude, you talk to ChatGPT, and you can talk to them until you're blue in the face about everything exercise related and training related and nutrition related. And while they still get some mistakes, especially in this field, because so much of the internet information they've learned is wrong, just,
Yeah.
information posted by people who don't know things. They're getting better all the time, and it's an excellent partner for you to talk to and to clear up questions and all this other stuff, especially about basic phys. So, for example, you heard something like, well, foam rolling in the fascia. You can ask ChatGPT, like, what is muscle fascia? It'll tell you everything you ever want to know, and that's almost 100% correct. And then you can say, like, what kind of forces do we typically see imparted in something like foam rolling? Okay, and you can say, like, from what we know on fascia, is it possible that foam rolling is really altering tissues? And it's probably going to be like, no, it's like 3 orders of magnitude difference in forces. You have to get run over
Yeah.
by a car to do that.
At
And so
least.
all of a sudden you've
Mm.
learned something, but really basic phys and basic anatomy is something that those AIs know better than any human by a long shot. And
Mm.
so now I don't want to call it an excuse, but the reason for not learning as much as you want is just they're just no longer around. Like, all of our books are like $35. And look, I'm just going to say this: there's a high probability that if you don't have that money, you can pirate them on the internet. And all the YouTube videos are free, and all ChatGPT, et cetera, is free. And so nowadays, when people like pop off at the mouth about some shit they thought they knew from Reels, it's just a clown show, because it's like you could have been learning shit, but you're playing too much. That's
This is
my view on it.
that's the only time when I say that social media is ruining our industry, because the worst I've had, because every student that I take on needs to go through initial onboarding call where we decide if he is the right fit for us or not.
Oh wow.
Because I don't at one point or another I had to decide that, hey, it's enough shitty trainers out there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want to work with those that are striving for something more. And I got the one guy on that told me, yeah, I know a lot of stuff about fitness and nutrition. I said, what did you learn? TikTok? I said, are you kidding me? You just told me that you learned from TikTok. And you
Fuck,
think,
he really said that?
yeah, he said it out loud. And I said, and you think that is solid information that you got. That's something that you would bring up in an interview where you are telling me that you are trying to pursue a career in the fitness industry. Come on, just give me a break.
I'm
And
really
that was,
happy to know that that person exists. It's like a unicorn, you never can believe it until you see one. That's intense, man. That it's like a joke punchline in a real human being.
it
That's
is, yeah.
wild. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, so baffling to hear. How do you even respond to that in the moment? Like, I would just assume he was joking. And if he was like, no, I'm serious, I'd be like, what the fuck?
I was quiet for a bit because exactly how
Uh,
to respond.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, good God. I mean, that's wild. Yeah. And TikTok's easy. It's fun. It's entertaining. You can scroll through a bunch of stuff, but the amount of total exposure to nuanced data, which you can see the underlying structure, is limited. And why do I say that? Because if you watch a longer form video, typically those videos kind of introduce you to the topic. They give you the baseline understanding. They weave in some kind of problems to solve. They solve them. And after that, you've kind of seen like a really big branch of the tree of knowledge in that part of the tree of knowledge. Because the whole branch was shown to you and illustrated and weaved. But if you watch a TikTok reel or YouTube short, it could be entertaining. You could pick up some really awesome facts. But having a holistic understanding is like you're just looking at one of the berries of the tree, and someone's like, what do the rest of the tree look like? And you're like, the fuck am I supposed to know? So you don't really know a whole lot except for that thing. And you don't even know what context that thing was talked about or asked. Sometimes I'll get a lot of I was on a podcast recently. A nice young lady. Her name was Cody Sanchez, and she asked me a bunch of questions, and one of them was about alcohol. And
I've seen that.
yeah, and I said, if you really need alcohol to relax, and it's really that thing that does it for you, here's how I would go about it. And so many people were like, "This is the worst advice ever. This guy's telling you to drink alcohol. You don't need to drink alcohol to relax." But like zero of those people actually watched the podcast that the clip was pulled out of, because I also said that I don't drink, and drinking is like fucking poison. And
Mhm.
but if you have to drink, this is how to do it. They just miss that entirely. So many people, and that's what you get from reels and stuff. And a lot of people is one of my favorite, absolute favorite things to read for comedy on the internet is when people like see a reel of mine or of anyone else's for that matter, and their comment is, "I feel like you missed a lot of nuance." Get the fuck out of here. No way. 60 seconds isn't enough time for nuance?
Oh fuck yeah.
That's like that. The person who says that, you just gotta be like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
Is anyone helping you tie your shoes or go to school? Does anyone check up on you to make sure you didn't burn yourself alive in your apartment by leaving the stove open?
I just saw a meme today that it's from a store in the US. Usually, quite frankly, the US is just getting more and more insane with every year, in my
It's
opinion,
not. It's not at
regarding
all.
that.
It's not. It's not at all. It's just.
No,
It's. You don't. So like, I'll just clear this up really quick. America is a country in which there's almost no crime anywhere, where almost everyone is really wealthy and doing super great. That since that's not news, you're not going to hear about it anywhere. Like I just assume everyone in Austria is a fucking Nazi, and then I go there and I'm like, oh, there's
it's not.
approximately zero Nazis here. That sucks. So no, America is like a very serene, quiet, awesome place full of loving people. But there are a couple of really fucked up places that have their fucked up moments. But that's what you're going to see the most of. So in any case, please, I like to clear up all these because I've been to Europe a bunch. Actually, during that Austria trip that you were talking
Yeah.
about earlier, it's a very common thing. Melissa Davis and James Hoffman and I, who were on the trip together, we heard was like, "Oh, America's it's kind of the place where the police are shooting black people at random in the street." Yes, we're like, "No, motherfucker, no,
Yeah.
no. You've heard of one black person that got shot?
Yeah.
One. The U.S. police had like 50 million encounters with people every year. Like one of those people went south. It is not a way to paint the entire country. So, but my apologies.
No.
Please.
I was just talking about what we see in the stores, what you don't see in Europe, for example, like Whiskas cat milk. It's not from cat. The explanation next to that in the store, you don't see that here, but I've seen it in Florida.
Oh, so
Because
wait, it's cow's milk.
it's cow's milk, but because it's for cat,
Branded. It's
branded
for
cat
cats.
milk. Yeah. I don't
Huh.
know why they sell it anyway. I mean, it's just milk.
Well, people here are really, well, rich people. That's the answer. When people get rich enough, they like fill up on everything they need because you can only eat so much food and wear so many clothes. And then they start to like want to buy pets, shit for their pets. Like, we have a pet, my wife and I, Crystal, pet dog. And, like that dog doesn't really understand that two rather competent millionaires spend an inordinate amount of time caring about it and making sure it has all the things it needs. That dog is spoiled as fuck. Now we don't spoil it because we don't fall for rich people bullshit like organic dog bones or some dumb shit
Yeah.
like that because we're scientifically literate. But that a lot of rich people, that's not, science isn't their number one thing. And when they see like organic cat's milk for your cat, they're like, oh my god, I love my cat. Aw. And they don't even look at the price. It's like $9 a fucking whatever. They don't care. Yeah.
True. That's the funny stuff. Yeah, but
Yeah.
one more thing before we close this up today. You've had a debate with Brett Contreras about glutes, what's best for them, and so on and so on. Do people get the whole the muscle under load in a stretch position or lengthened position or in a shortened position, or do they mostly miss the nuance as well? They do.
Well, it depends on what you mean by people. I'm not sure how to
majority. Even
right.
the fitness industry.
I'm just not in touch with a majority of people. I've never spoken to a majority of people, and I don't know how to access the information in the majority of people's heads.
I mean, even the fitness industry, what I get a lot is you have always two camps. So you have now one camp, lengthen. Everything is about lengthen. Then you have, no, like the guy who's Joel Friedman. You know what I mean?
Seidman.
Seidman, is it Seidman? The guy with squats only 290.
Yeah.
Seidman. Is it Seidman? Okay, yeah. So you have these two camps. But, the reality is somewhere in between. Use both, for God's sake. Why is that so hard to understand?
Yeah, I think people, most people are just like, what's the thing I can do that helps me? And the answer for them is, probably putting your body into a position of length and tension exposure is great. And maybe a large fraction of your training should attend to that. But if you get a lot out of exercises that don't put you in that position and you can somehow otherwise qualitatively or quantitatively demonstrate that they're pretty good, that's all awesome. And that's really the true answer. But some people get a lot of feelings, and people with a low degree of trait openness to experience will clamp down on what they already know and see new information as an affront. And they just don't like to update their priors for the new knowledge space that they're in. And so you tell people like, well, actually, it seems like, getting into deep positions is good. And they're like, well, that's just too fancy. It's just too much thinking for me to do. So I'm just going to do what the old school guys did. And I understand where they're coming from. It's not exactly correct. But there are other people who have very high trait openness as measured on the ocean scale. And sometimes their traits of critical thinking aren't as awesome. And so what they'll do is they'll say, this lengthened partial thing, this is the new thing. We only ever do lengthened partials. We no longer do anything else. And there's just no one, including Milo Wolf, the lengthened partial man himself, has ever said that. And so if you look at all literature together, including the direct comparison studies, it seemed like emphasizing the lengthened component is good, but that doesn't mean all the other components are useless, and the full range of motion can still be appropriate in many instances. So people have their camps. They don't like complexity. Vegans hate carnivores and carnivores hate vegans, but most people are just trying to eat well. And, most people can be united in the fact that, minimally processed foods, be they from animal or plant sources, eaten in moderation, are probably awesome. The thing is, that last part doesn't really get people going, like how many revolutions have you seen in the world for moderation? We want moderation. We want it now. Like burning shit down. That's not a thing. But a lot of times moderation and sensible actions and taking all the evidence together and putting forward a hypothesis is probably what's going to be the right thing most of the time. It just doesn't get under people's skin. So I think a lot of people just have a lot of feelings about this stuff and they confuse those feelings with thoughts.
True. Thanks. I don't want to take too much time away from you. So thank you again for doing this with me today. Really appreciate it. I hope we can, in the near future, do another one. I have more things to ask you.
I'm too important. That's never going to happen.
Oh, thank you. Good.
I look forward to it, man. That sounds really good.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It was really nice having you. It was an honor as well. And thank you for the jokes in between. I know you weren't really joking about certain stuff, but collecting cocks.
Never can tell. Yeah. Satan is real. I'm going to remind you of that.
True.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Thanks, Mike.
If you like this video, then click here to watch more of videos like that. If you have not subscribed to our channel yet, please click here. And don't forget to tell us in the comments below, who do you want us to host next so that you get the guest that you want?